This is it. There's just no end, no end. And the lady who wrote this, the Minister of Finance for New Zealand, her name's Ruth Richardson. She wrote the foreword to my second book or my third book, I can't remember. And so she was here talking to me and said, Farooq, it was really weird. The country hated me for that. Just like Mitul said. The country said, come on, increase M, lower interest rates. Come on, the Keynesian makes sense, right, to people. Supply side is a tough, hard policy. Supply side says, no, MNG don't matter. Productivity, deregulation, innovation, not this, this. And so she said, Farooq, I'd come home. She was in Christchurch, I think, at that time. And she said, I'd come home and there was this big green, like this open area in front of my house. And every evening, they would be burning me in effigy. And my kids would go, Mom, that looks like you. And she would go, yeah, sweetheart. If everybody likes you, little Jamie, if everybody likes you, that means you're doing something wrong. That's what she said. Farooq, if everyone likes you, you're doing something wrong. And I went, wow, that's profound. And so every day there'd be Ruth Richardson burning an effigy. And then she had a majority of one. Finally, boom, they got her out, they threw her out. But that still is around. Bank of New Zealand Act. So pretty brutal. Looks like this. And you can say M will not make any difference. And I promise in chapter 10 we come to the supply side model. And the third one, if 1 and 2 both not possible, then what do you do? Then how do you get monetary discipline? Thank you. Then peg to currency of another country with huge monetary discipline. So how does that work? How is pegging work? Now please understand, all countries that peg don't do it for monetary discipline, but this is if one is not possible, like so it's institutionally the central bank is not independent. If 2 is not possible, then you don't have legislation. If you really want monetary discipline, then you peg your currency. So for example, let's see what this is all about. 10 of A equals to 1 of B. A needs discipline. And B has discipline. So let's say Zahi has discipline. He's in the library 10 hours a day. Langdana, I need discipline, monetary discipline. And in my country, I'm the central banker, okay? And I don't have institutional independence. I can be fired anytime. It's like the Zimbabwean central banker that I sat next to at a conference in the bus. And so we were chatting and he said, Farooq, we know all about hyperinflation. Zimbabwe, massive hyperinflation. But Mugabe, we have a maniac. we have a rogue dictator. And so, of course, we all know Weimar Republic and Hungarian hyperinflation. We all grew up and we did grad school. But the thing is, the reality is, guys like me like to go home to our families, alive, in one piece. You know, it was just a very poignant, heartbreaking conversation. So, this is our world. You know, we know the reality, which is Mugabe, and we know how this is going to end. And so we do the best we do. We try to get through a day, and get through the next day. And so it was very heartbreaking. So, you know, so if you don't have autonomy, you just want to get home to your family basically at some point. You don't have legislation, you beg. So I need discipline. I'm Langdana. I don't have discipline in my country. And Zahi has discipline. So I take a rope. I'm not studying enough. I'm not going to the library enough. So I take a rope and I tie myself to Zahi. It's a long rope. And so every time he goes to the library, what happens to me? I get pulled over. He drags me along. So now I'm pegged to him. 10 of Langdana to 1, some rate, doesn't matter the number. So every time he goes in, there, you've done a mirror image. Where were you always there? You were there. See, Langdana notices everything. You were there at some point. Yes. And so I have photographs, which I have for the rest of my life, where you said Halima was there. Mitchell, thank you. You were like a permanent fixture. Thank you for being consistent. And so the whole world says, okay, Langdana is now tied to Zahi, and Zahi is really disciplined. So now people invest in emerging Langdana fund. And look at that, Langdana's got discipline. You know, every day, Zahi is taking him to the library, he's pegged. The peg is announced to the world. Great. Hot capital flows into Langdana. So far, so good. Peg is working. Now, what happens? What has problem with the pegs in plain English is this. Zahi now is feeling really good. He's powered up. He's in like stage 3, whatever. He runs to the library now. He's like super full of energy. I become sick, have a recession. So I am getting into recession. Zahi is maximum power. What happens now? Excuse me.
You want to spend more money?
But talk about the rope. What happens now? So there are 2 options, right, Pooja? One option is I still maintain the peg, and Zahi drags me to the library, and I'm unconscious. I bounce around behind him. You know, I'm gone, or I break the peg. And so here we are. Pegs are short-term at best. Pegs for monetary discipline are short-term solutions at best. So that is the problem with pegging. They will work, finish a sentence for me, only as long as A and B, Langdana and Zahi. Wow. What was the name again? Dan. So you're Dan Macrino? But you're not the guy who posted the YouTube things. That was Nick. Nick, thank you for posting.
Is that okay? I should have asked you, I think. Okay.
No.
Sorry.
But Langdana gets to know everything. No, it's totally okay. Good. You sure that jacket's not in the way?
I'm gonna make some adjustments. But
Wait.
yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Eric, you can move that jacket, the brown jacket.
I was actually gonna, let's see. Crop it up.
That jacket. No.
No, yours. You're fine. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Is it in the way? Okay.
That's better. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you very much. Jerry. All right. So as long as A and B
I'm recording
are
it.
in the same phases, same relative phases of their business cycles. So as long as, so this is very important, folks, and I was thinking, I gave this to you to read, and I thought, this is just a little too important. And so, as long as I'm in recession and Zahi's in recession, it'll work. So we are both kind of crawling to the library. I'm superpowered in stage 3, he's in stage 3, it'll work. But if he is recovering and I'm in recession, pegs won't work, the peg will break apart. But before we go any further, how does this give me, if I had a peg, how does this give me discipline? I'm a rogue country, I don't have the great leader, I have a peg of 10 to 1. How does this get me monetary discipline? How does it work? We have, so I'm the central banker and Colleen is my leader. And Colleen is a rogue leader. By the way, Steve emailed me. And so Colleen says, Langdana, I need another castle. This one out of malachite, green. And then we need another nuclear attack submarine. And I go, Your Highness, why? And Colleen goes, tourists like to see stuff like that. And we need to buy one. I said, Your Highness, brilliant idea. Remember, I want to go home to my family. Brilliant idea, but how? And she says, I don't care. You do all the spending. And I want subsidies and bonuses to all the people working in our munitions plant. So, how does this peg help me, the central banker, who does not have inspired leadership, get monetary discipline? Come on, Sarah, what do I tell Bedelia? What do I tell Colleen? Dan, what do I tell Colleen? Dave, Nick, Solomon? What?
Well, you spend the same way the other country is spending their money.
So what do I say? I say, Your Highness, sure, that's a great idea. However, since we have a 10 to 1 peg, we are pegged to country B. Finish the sentence for me. How will this peg help me say no to this crazy idea? Twinkle?
Because when we the ratio, I think will control whatever activity you need to do, like purchase or stock.
You're almost there. So, right. Exactly. And so I'll tell Your Highness, brilliant idea. In fact, why didn't I think of that? You gotta do what you gotta do, right? Right? And malachite, actually collect rocks. It's a beautiful stone. So, I applaud you. However, if we spend all this money, this peg will go from 10 to 1 to 12 to 1 to 35 to 1. When we print money, the more pieces of paper you print, the less its value gets. The more MBAs we graduate, instead of 200, we graduate 20,000, your salaries will go down. As currency is as, exchange rates are as simple as that. The more pieces of currency, the less they get value. That's the fundamental intuition. So, Your Highness, the peg will break. And the peg is something we have announced to the world. We are going to be 10 to 1. We have attained macroeconomic religion and discipline. And we got all this hot capital, Fidelity and JP Morgan and all have come into our country to invest. So it'll become peg will break. Sorry, we cannot do it. So that's how I hope to push back, using this peg as like a refuge. So,
kind of mechanism, how is the priority between the local economy
Wow.
if they print money, do I print?
Wow, beautiful, Zahid, beautiful. You're a little ahead of class, but what that would mean for you? His question was, if I'm pegged to B, right? I'm A, I'm pegged to B. If B is overheating, and B raises interest rates, with me so far? But I am actually dead in the water. I have to also raise interest rates, otherwise the peg will break. These rates will go to 9%, I'm stuck at 2%, boom, capital flies out, my currency collapses. So that's the same thing as me falling sick and you powering up. Or B is sick and B is lowering interest rates and I am overheating. And so now you pushed me into stage 3, if I mimic you. That's the same thing as what I said. And that is the problem with pegs. They're great for short term as long as both the countries are on the same part of the business side.
So, wouldn't country B accuse country of
No, so-
currency manipulation?
No, that's a different story. So B, for like the United States, at one point we had 22 countries pegged to us. So this is the pegger, this is the peggy. Peggies wander around oblivious. They have all these countries hanging from their sleeve. Oh, I'm pegged? I don't know. You know? They're oblivious. Peggers are the ones who are going, what are these Americans doing? And that was that homework where they're developing. Who sent me that beauty? Did you? Somebody, 2 people sent that to me. The developing country. Yeah. And so that was part of that whole story.
I was gonna say, what short term is this? Like, how do you define short term?
You know, somebody said, so will COVID be gone? You know, it just, sometimes both countries, like Hong Kong, has been with the US, Hong Kong and Singapore since they're such heavy export countries. They've been with the US since we buy everything from them. And they sell mostly to us, Singapore. So they have been with us for a long time. And business cycles since World War II. Before World War II, this is GDP, this is time. Before World War II, they look like this. After World War II, it's like this: long recoveries, small recessions, long recoveries, small recessions. And so that's what business cycles have looked like in Singapore, in Hong Kong. They kind of mimicked us, but those are the few exceptions.
Yeah, but Professor, coming back to my earlier question, right? Like if you have a fixed rate compared to country A, compared to country B, right? Even if your economy is doing very good, like if you take an example of China and US, where US was accusing China of being a currency manipulation.
So that is different. So for you, pegging is different from currency manipulation. So let's say the official exchange rate would be, say, 8.24 yuan to $1, which is what it was. You know? And so that's like an endogenous exchange rate, okay? If China artificially makes this, say, stronger or weaker, or in other words, weaker, so makes us 10 artificially to stimulate its exports, that is called currency manipulation. It's a different story. And China is not doing any currency manipulation anymore, because the moment you manipulate currency and take it away from its endogenous, equilibrium, a black market develops. Whenever you see a black market, like in North Korea, of a currency, you know that the official rate is a fake rate.
Are there instances where countries maybe peg to the dollar, where they go ahead and look at the U.S. and say we no longer want to peg?
No, so it's Dan, right?
Yes, sir.
So Dan, generally speaking, it's not just the dollar anymore, it's a basket of currencies.
I think it's more so like where a country decides to no longer. Oh, so you're saying it's a basket? rather
It's
than
typically
one-
a trade weighted basket.
Okay.
So I'm B, I do 70% of my trade with America, then that's the biggest chunk. Then the next biggest chunk with the Eurozone, and then the third biggest chunk with Japan. So that's a composite bundle. Now, politically they can say, we don't want to, we're pegged to America, we don't like them. Remember, in the oil crisis, in the 70s, when the OPEC countries hated us, Yom Kippur War and all that, the money was still flowing here. Remember that story I told you in class? They were jumping up and down, burning the American flag, and then, oh, excuse me, gotta send money to the US. And in some cases, didn't even leave the US. So, follow the money. It actually works. It worked in Watergate, it still works.
Thank you.
And then Gone with the Wind, the first sentence of the movie, towards the first few, the lady is telling, what's the main heroine's name? Gone with the Wind. Scarlett O'Hara, thank you. But what men say and what men do are two totally different things. So forget the political rhetoric, follow the money. Okay, long bond. Stay with me. And here we finally are. Do we have any Swiss here? Swiss people? That whole thing about Swiss neutrality, that is so bogus. They are the most unneutral people in the world. So much of the gold stolen in World War II is stuck in Switzerland. Now, so much of the Jewish gold is still stuck there. The most bogus neutrality, and my blood pressure goes up. You're neutral. Yeah, come on, you're neutral. I'm going to levitate. Makes me all upset. All right, stay with me here. Long bonds. Here we are finally, very important. And those of you working in finance, in interviews for jobs, I don't know why, but interviewers love this topic. I don't know why. So here we go, long bonds. Bonds know best. The Fisher effect. Here we have very, very important, very powerful. Here we are. This is the Fisher effect. And let's talk about it. So, I want to Mark here wants to borrow money from me. So Mark wants to borrow $1,000 from me. Are you with me, folks? Need some time? Okay. Need some time? Okay. So Mark wants to borrow $1,000 from me for 5 years. So I want to be, this is the real interest rate for the very first time in the class. And this is a macro explanation. Real interest rate, that's the real gain to lenders and real loss to borrowers. So I want to be, so Mark is borrowing from me for 5 years, $1,000. And when he pays me back, I want to be physically better off by 10%. So in other words, when he pays me back in 5 years, I want to be able to buy 10% more stuff, actual stuff, physical. That's what I want. Now, I do my ISLM analysis, which we are going to start today. ISLM, that's the main part of this course. And I'm thinking that between now and 5 years, when he pays me back, inflation is going to be 15%. I'm just magnifying things. Just an example here. So when he pays me back, 5 years from now, 2027, I'll just do all my ISLM, 15% inflation. So when he pays me back in 5 years, that money is going to be worth 15% less because inflation eats away the purchasing power of your money. So now, keep in mind, I want to be 10% actually better off at the end of the day. Inflation between now and 5 years is 15%. What rate should I lend him at today?
25.
So here we are, this is 15%, and this is expected inflation. future. Risk, war, etc. With the expectation formed today. So here you are, very, very important. Copy this and we'll talk about it. So, expectation, this is expected inflation, pi E. Pi, excuse me, is inflation. And so, into the future. And so here we are, these are long-term nominal interest rates. IMT. And that should be 35%. And so long-term nominal interest rates are forward-looking. This is your 30-year mortgage rate. This is second time. This is your long-term treasury interest rate. 5-year, 10-year, anything over 5 years, anything over 3 years. So, give me a second. So here is a major takeaway. ILT, long-term rates are forward-looking. They're looking into the future. That's the first time we're looking into the future in this course. Because everything we've done so far has been in the rearview mirror. Looked at inflation numbers, in actual CPI, last month. Consumer confidence, last month. Jobless claims, last week's. GDP, last month. You see what I'm saying? Everything we see in the news so far in this class has been in the rearview mirror. Backward looking. For the first time, we are looking forward into the future. So what you have here is long bonds are forward looking. It's very, very powerful, and we will see that there are people who actually really believe in these, especially US Treasury, especially US government debt, market watchers, who are looking at our treasury bills, treasury bonds, and they are called bond vigilantes, who every twitch in the market, they analyze. Yeah, Dan, after you finish copying.
Did I miss something in the equation that 10 to 15 is there?
Oh, sorry.
Or I missed
Sorry.
something.
Thank you. Please change 25, sorry guys. And so here's our first takeaway is it's forward looking. And this is an expectation, and we will see where does this come from. So hang in there with me. So this is your mortgage rate. Those of you who are in the housing market, mortgage rates have been climbing. So let's look at the treasury yield curve now. I'll erase this. And you're going to see a macro version. Some of you work in finance, I know. Many of you have done your finance courses. What you're getting now is a macro version of the yield curve. So it's a macro, to me, a more intuitive version of the yield curve. And bond vigilantes, Ben Bernanke, Greenspan, Paul Volcker, these are all bond vigilantes. So let's see what's going on. Here is the yield curve. Here, this is time to maturity. And this is ILT. So this is 30 days, 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years. And I'm just making up some diagram. So it's typically like this, 2%, 3%, 4%. And this is the normal yield curve. This is treasuries, treasury market, normal yield curve, government bonds. This is the treasury and the US treasury market, the safest market, US government debt, in spite of all our problems, the safest government, the safest debt. Like I reminded you, for those of you who've done finance, in your capital asset pricing model, that risk-free rate, remember we discussed this in class? Yes, no?
Mm-hmm.
That RF, that risk-free rate in your CAPM models, that's the rate in our class so far. I0, I1, foreigners coming in, safe haven, that's the risk-free rate that you used in your finance class. So that's how we are dovetailing with your finance class. Getting this, folks? So that RF that kind of sat there and did nothing in your finance class, that's our main focus here. That's the rate on treasuries. That was a short-term rate. So, first of all, tell me why this is duration of maturity, 30-year borrowing, 1-year borrowing. Why does the rate go higher as the duration gets longer?
Uncertainty.
What's that, Dave?
Uncertainty.
Yeah, the uncertainty is greater, right? When I lend to you for 30 days, I know pretty much what's going to happen. 1 year, okay. 30 years. So, more uncertainty, the greater the risk premium, which is this here. All right. Many consider this rate, this yield curve, to be the most efficient market in the world. The treasury market, before eBay happened, was considered extremely efficient. Why? Because let's say that Helena wants to borrow $1,000 for 20 years. I want to lend to her for 20 years. Mitchell wants to lend to her for 20 years. And Colleen, you want to lend to her for 20 years. We're 3 bankers. What do? All 3 of us are looking into the future. We are doing analysis. Okay, inflation. Okay, Putin going into Ukraine, not going into Ukraine, going into Ukraine, yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, the premium I'm going to add is 12%. If I add any more, Mitchell might beat me and get the loan from her. But if I add a little less, I might lose my shirt. You see what I'm saying? So all the lenders in the marketplace, they all are looking into the future. They're using all information endogenously to lend to Helena. And all are competing. I want to lend you totally at 24%. And I'm thinking that's a good deal, because if I do 21%, I might lose my shirt. Pauline goes, you know what? Langdana is wrong. I'm going to try 21.5. And then, Mitchell goes, oh, these 2 guys are crazy. The best I can do is 28%. So we all lending to you. And so all looking into the future. So many consider this to be the most efficient market, and hence there's an expression, bonds know best. And so let's see what this fuss is about. This is when things get scary. What happens when the long end starts going up? So this is 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, yesterday. If the long end starts going up, all hell breaks loose. The long end of the bond market starts going up, everyone runs for cover. This is a scary thing for bond vigilantes. They go, oh my gosh. The long bonds are telling us the bonds know best. They're all efficient. They're all looking into the future. I had a guy from the American Embassy in my Beijing class who said that the long bond market is like an oracle. Oracles, looking into the future. And I thought, wow, that's actually I like it. I call them macroeconomic radars. Looking into the future. Radars look over the horizon. So what does this mean? When this happens, everybody freaks out. So what is going on here? long bonds start going up, something is happening, going to happen, not happening now, but going to happen in the future. Remember, repeating myself, this is the only one of the few, these and futures, commodity futures, gold futures, CRB, Commodity Research Bureau futures, they are similar. But this is best because this asset is the risk-free asset on the planet. This is the least riskiest thing on the planet, in spite of the insurrection, in spite of all our problems. Even China, though China hates us, they are still plowing money into this. Follow the money. So, when the long end goes up, when long end of the yield curve goes up, what does this mean? And why the fuss? Okay guys, take me through this.
Market expects the inflation to go up in the future.
So louder there.
Market expects the inflation rates to go up in the future.
So here we are. Basically it means that, stay with me now, ILT is equal to R plus pi E. Here's the Fisher effect. It's named after Irving Fisher, who looked at 100 years of data and came up with this relationship. So please note that this is mostly stable. So when the long-term interest rates go up, as Dave just said, so when this goes up, what does that imply? Then it's this. So if ILT goes up, this implies future, not now, future inflation and or risk. Helena, this is what I was talking about for long bonds, looking into the future and saying, what's Putin going to do? And the long bonds are like, not doing much. That's the strangest thing. The long bonds are going, nothing. No pi. Putin's going to be just wasting money, parking all those assets in the cold Ukrainian winter. It must be expensive to park assets there, right? It's very cold, right now? Yeah. 1812 comes to mind, 1942 comes to mind. Yes? Yes, okay. And or risk is so that means inflation is coming or risk is coming. So now tell me what possible scenarios, Twinkle, can cause inflation to go up in the future. Chris, what possible scenarios? Gentleman next to Solomon, what possible scenarios? Nick, gentleman in that corner, I don't have your nameplate, so Shravan, help me here. What possible scenarios can cause inflation to go up in the future?
Maybe the government has decided to go for a fiscal stimulus, so there may be a possibility that the fiscal deficit may become unsustainable, so people.
Wow, so there's so many deep clicks in there. Are you deep clicking on him? Thank you, Nick. So let's go with simple one. The first one, thank you, Dave. First one, economy could be growing. Could be growing in the future. In the near future. Maybe even overheating. And I'm going to put a smiley face here. You know, so more or less happy. So here is the diagram. Let me come back to the middle. This is the benevolent or the good scenario, right there? So then we will go back to what you just said, the scary one. The long end goes up and everyone is freaking out. Bond vigilantes are all over the place. Bond vigilantes are showing up on every talk show, So did you hear what happened this afternoon? The long bonds went up, so many basis points. What are your thoughts? Oh, terrible, terrible. And I feel like walking out into traffic. If you should also follow me and walk out into this is apocalypse now. Book of Revelations, long bonds will go up. So here we go. So here is the situation. Change in aggregate supply curve. Aggregate demand today, here we are. Now we're looking at intertemporal effects, all right? So P0 today, Y0 today. What if the long end goes up? This is the benevolent or the more or less positive scenario. What could be happening in this diagram? Lady next to Eric, what's your name? Connie, come on, help me here.
Would AD be shifting to the right?
Yes, thank you. So here, AD in near future. Y near future. P higher in near future. You see what I'm saying? So this is the happy scenario. Economy is growing, growth is coming, people are jumping into the stock market, happy. And so this is like the happy case here. And so this right in here, let's change color. So this is where this is the increase in pi e today. So right in here. So that increase in inflation, that's pushing up the long end. So that's growth is coming, this is the happy case. Let's do a case that is not too happy. And so by the way, born vigilantes, do you know this comedian, politician, guy called James Carville? He's on MSNBC a lot. James Carville, bald guy? No?
Mm-hmm.
He's always wearing a purple Louisiana sweatshirt. So James Carville, and he's a Democrat, hardcore. His wife's a hardcore Republican. She's still around? I don't see her anywhere. Well, let's talk about James. And so James made this great, I was in graduate school a long time ago, and James Carville said, the bond market. He said, if I die, and if God says, James, you get a chance to go back, I'm going to resurrect you and send you back. You have one choice. What would you like to be? And James Carville said, I would say, make me the bond market. Because I can intimidate everybody. I know a little bit and everyone goes around. And I thought in grad school, that's macro humor. That macro can be funny. That's cool. It's like a deep click joke. Like come back as the bond market. That is brilliant. Because it was so terrifying back then. Until the Fed lost its mojo for a while. But if you read my article, mojo coming back by fall. Mojo coming back by fall. I hope all my predictions come right. Putin better behave, mojo better come back for the Fed. Alright, the bad scenario, come on, what else could it be? Long end going up. So this is the benevolent one. So you have family there, Halima?
Yeah,
Where?
I'm from the west.
Oh, so west is good. Number two, or another reason. So pi e going up in the future. Come on, guys. Wow, who is that? Greg. So here we are, could be cost push inflation in the future. And you can all those articles about oil shocks getting worse. It could all be simply to push the price of oil up. So cost push inflation in the future, not now, in the future. Or some supply chain shock. Shutting down the Suez Canal, shutting down South China Sea with a problem with China. Come on, show me here, Greg.
The supply curve to the left.
Bang. Yes, in the future. This could be a drought, monsoon failure, global warming, supply chains snarl up, Putin's misadventures, oil. So here we are, P higher in the future. And this can also cause the long end to go up. You see what I'm saying? So there's an identification issue. And so this here is pi E increasing today. Yeah, Dave.
I had this doubt, Professor, like would supply chain disruptions and cost push inflation, would that impact 10-year or 5-year, 6-year bond yields because they're like too much in the future? Maybe those disruptions, as you said in the article, are short-lived mostly. So would that impact the yields of that long?
Great point. So maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, but you know, you see the long bonds for you, there's something called a term structure of interest rates, where it says that even like 2-year, 3-year, 1-year bonds, when they go up, they actually are married to 2, 3, 4. It's called term structure. I'm not going into it. So there is an effect. But you're right. Typically, guys, and I forgot to say this last time, the cost push inflation I discussed in class, droughts, oil shocks, famines. You know, did I mention the Old Testament, the dream? No? The oldest example of cost push inflation is Pharaoh's dream. Dana, help me here. The dream, recurring dream. Joseph?
7 sickly cows.
Yes. Sarah, come on.
So Pharaoh kept having a dream that there were
7.
7 years of harvest.
No. So let's talk about the dream. You're doing the analysis.
Well, he was realizing that they had to prepare for a supply
Yeah.
shock.
So thank you, Sarah. So the dream was he was seeing 7 fat cows being chased by 7 skinny cows, or maybe donkeys, doesn't matter. And then 7 fat cows, skinny cows. Yes, no? Anyway, he had this recurring dream, so he asks Joseph to interpret it. And Joseph goes, can you repeat that again? Did you say 7? 7. Did his ISLM, I'm thinking, you know? He said, aha, cost push inflation. You're going to get an agricultural shock. So Joseph analyzed it, and that was the first macroeconomic consulting thing in history. And it went well. He became finance minister,
Essentially.
and then didn't end well. His kids threw him in a well. Ungrateful kids. But you get the point. So that was cost push inflation, and Dave's thing is, it's short term. It's usually short term. Until now. And thank you, Dave, because I didn't make this point last time. COVID is not going. It has stuck around for 2 years. COVID, then semiconductors, now trucks, now people who are just not working. So that cost push inflation from COVID is something we've never seen before. Its longevity is unprecedented.
Well, when supply chains will be realigned, wouldn't it
Yes.
really go away?
Yes, and that's what Biden's people are counting on. Alina, your eraser has fallen down. Another chair. So yeah, that's what the Biden people are counting on. Who knows?
Yeah, I was reading an article from Charlie Munger, he's partner of Biden market. He was saying the same thing, that inflation is going to stay
The semiconductor, like I mentioned in class, you don't just diffuse the semiconductor crisis. It's very capital intensive. It's not like making masks or respirators. It takes a long time to ramp up. Very capital intensive, very water intensive, and there's a drought coming. So supply chain people probably know better. Don't you have a course here in this school on shocks to the supply chain? Victoria, are we seeing the end of COVID, doctor? You think this is the last gasp?
And honestly, the cases are slowing down now.
They are? They are slowing down. So there will be spring break, there will be a spike, so it will be more contagious but less detrimental.
I mean, are we sure it needs to be less detrimental? What exactly?
Death rate is going down. Oh, I got 4 shots. I'm tempted to go back to CVS since I collected the 5th one. Because in microeconomics, more is better. Remember the indifference curves? Who did you have for micro? Who? Okay. So cross-push inflation. So, all right. The answer on the questions? There's another kind now. And that is what Dave said earlier. The third one. Or long bonds could be signaling what? Could be cost push, could be demand pull. Come on. What else? Adelia, Pooja, who's your friend next to you? Ruchi. And Dr. Victoria, who's next to you? Can I make your nameplate? Mark, how is the happily married life going? Good. I have to tell you though, I applaud you for going on the honeymoon and actually going on the honeymoon. Did I tell you about the coconuts? No? So, there's a guy called Michael, forget his name, from the evening class. It's like he gets married, goes on a honeymoon. And so the next, he goes, Hawaii actually. And I get an email from him. Professor, I looked at your readings and do we click on this paragraph or that paragraph? And I went, Michael Haas. I should be probably giving all of this information. Poor Michael Haas. And so I said, Michael, aren't you on your honeymoon? And his response, I am. She's in the shower. And I'm quickly looking at my macro. Salt water, tears of joy. I think I waived the exam for him. Honeymoon, Langdana. Honeymoon, Langdana. So anybody yelled at him, I said, Michael, close the laptop, go get a coconut, the drinks with the umbrellas on them, go have a coconut drink, what you're supposed to do on your honeymoon. You did that, right? Of course. Yeah. So he went off and did that. What a great guy. Okay, come on, answer my question, folks. Gentleman next to Nick, what's his name? Of course. Help me here. Dan, come on. Eric, Connie. Come on. Jessica. Is that Jessica? Come on. Alina. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. Soft landing is going to bring inflation down though, right? Yeah. Lady next to Greg, what's your name? What? Come on, help me here. If you made your name tags, that would really make it. Yeah. Hi. What? Yeah. So something could be, long bonds could be signaling, wow, but bottom line, when the long bonds are going up, that pi E is going up. We all know that, right? We all got that. Yes, no? So,
Yes.
let me translate. What all in the future could cause pi E to go up today? One could be demand pull inflation causing pi E to go up. Next could be cost push inflation causing pi E to go up.
Quantitative easing.
Gentleman in the back corner, help me here. What's your name, sir? Amir? Come on.
Right? That's the only
Wow,
thing.
Amir, you're at the goal.
Quantitative easing.
What?
Quantitative easing.
Yeah, there you're at the goal. You already said confidence. So help me. Nick? Oh, Jose? From Norway? Yeah. Yeah. What? Yeah. Anisha, you just can't keep throwing definitions at me. She's like going through the list. Okay, stage 3, GDP. You can't do this. What?
What would make the
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. Megan? So Megan, you just threw under the bus, right? Very good. Could be signaling a country's long-term rate. Soviet Union, deficits out of control, long bonds. Zimbabwe, What is going on here, Dr. Victoria?
Fiscal deficit unsustainable.
What?
The fiscal deficit becoming unsustainable.
Yes. Future deficit non-sustainability. Come on, guys. Future deficit non-sustainability. So this is a very, very bad thing. Non-sustainability. Long bonds will tell you this. Sustainability, which, come on, finish a sentence for me, Shravan. Which would, Amir, finish a sentence for me, which would necessitate obscene, let's be, monetization, which are expected by forward-looking long bonds, macroeconomic radars, finish a sentence for me, to cause no, a little more dramatic. Not just
Hyperinflation?
A little more dramatic.
Hyperinflation? No? All right.
Terrible. We need some drama. Hyperinflation. No, future inflation. So here we are. And this actually happens. Please note, long bonds are in contrast to short, okay, one step at a time. And it could be, by the way, it could be all three. It doesn't have to be one, it could be a combination. And so, bottom line, if the long end goes up, finish a sentence for me. Yes, Bedelia, it warns us that inflation or risk, this is what I'm saying. If the long bonds in Ukraine and Russia are not reacting, now I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked in the last week. So, those of you in finance, get a chance, poke around, let me know. I haven't looked, maybe I'll look tonight. But when I looked a week ago, yawn, was going, wow. All right, so the smart money is not adding any premium. So the warns us that risk is coming, but finish a sentence for me. What's the bottom line from this big discussion, Christy? Greg? Yeah. So, we did all these different cases, right, Leah? We said long end going up, it could be demand pull, it could be cost push, it could be unsustainable. I think there's also another one, it could be a variety. So, finish a sentence for me. It warns us that inflation risk is coming, in the future, but it does not tell us by itself. Finish a sentence for me.
Why?
Wow. Who was that? Come on, Nick, tell me more.
Uh-oh, that's all I had.
What was it?
It does not tell us. It does not tell us
For
why
you.
it's happening.
For you, Nick, for you. Why? Hey, that's actually perfect. Thank you. Wow. So it's another click. So here you are. Long end goes up. It can be many scenarios. It's not always growth is coming, or this and that, which is what we are seeing in the American economy. G&M going up. Remember I showed you in class many reasons for inflation in America. Could be a combination of these two in our country. Could be a combination of these three in our country, by the way. If you're worried about the Biden stimulus. So it doesn't tell you why, generally speaking. You need to, as an analyst, as a leader of your company, as the person in charge, once you see the long end going up, you need to click one more time and do your analysis and say, all right, guys, I just want to let you know, everybody doesn't need to rejoice. Long end's going up, but I really think it's mostly cost push inflation. Or, guys, I don't think it's cost push inflation because it's burning off now. We are alleviating the trucking problem. We are alleviating the supply chain issue. I think we are seeing the market essentially growing. Or, I don't think it's cost push or demand pull. I think the market is expecting the non-sustainable deficits to come, the sky to fall on our heads and become highly inflationary. So, it tells you what's coming, it doesn't tell you why. Questions, comments?
What do you mean when the yield curve is inverted?
Wow. Greg, for you. See, so much macro, so little time. Okay, so I'm going to set this up. This was actually going to be a little exercise for you for home, Greg, and I'm going to, since you brought it up, I'm going to set this up for you. Inverted yield curves, yield curve inversion. And I kind of talk about it in my book. So this is the normal yield curve. And this is typically an inverted yield curve. Time and ILT. Alright, so generally speaking, I'm going to set this up for you. An inverted yield curve often implies, come on, anybody? That a recession is coming, that a slowdown or recession is coming in the future. So yield curve inversion again freaks people out. Oh my gosh, long end's gone down, short end's gone up. Oh jeez, a recession is coming. Not always, but often. So let me talk about that. So for the homework, which I'm going to give you on this, here's a little hint. Here you go, Keynesian aggregate supply. AD today. Y, very high. Unemployment at record low levels. Today. P0 today. And another title for this discussion is Why Good News is Often Bad for the Stock Market. Why good news is often bad for the stock market. So this is, I'll let you copy this. So this is all good news. I mean, unemployment fell to the record low in 37 years. Output has grown to its highest level in 5 decades. This economy is on fire. I see absolutely only blue sky, the usual. So often good news is bad for the stock market, and this discussion I'm doing for you before the break will help you explain yield curve inversion. Why an inverted yield curve, this is 30 days, and this is 30 years. The 30-year bond is, by the way, known as the bond. So American 30-year bond is called the bond. All right, so why is good news bad for the stock market? Often, not always, often. Months, Pooja. Yeah, so there are sap bubbles here. There's no unemployment, only bottom of the barrel people. As I said in class, Rutgers MBAs were hired here. And only here at the NYU, Columbia, this bottom of the barrel people. Come on, so why is this? And 38 years, the lowest unemployment rate, 400 years, the highest GDP. Suddenly the market falls 300 points.
Because, like, good news meaning long-term rates are going up, so if you're using long-term rates to discount future cash flows, the present value is lower.
Right.
The Fed's gonna raise rates.
Yeah, so let's go macro. This is a macro discussion. Think macro. What will the Fed do? Raise interest rates. So here we are, raise interest rates today, right? And so typically, here you go, M decreases today as Fed hits the brakes today. And here we are, AD in the near future, P lower in the near future. Are you saying this? Why lower? Recession in the near future. So tell me, explain to me now, what happened here? Why does the market go down 300 points today, first of all? When you have all this good news, Megan? Yes, so people, right now, we have this amazing news, and what are investors saying? Let's sell, let's profit take. It's called profit taking, right? So investors are going to be doing profit taking. Let's get out on top. Get out on top. Get out of here before the Fed slows the economy down. So when I get my 25%, 28% I made, I'm done. Get out on top. So people sell because the soft landing or hard landing is coming. With me so far? So you get out today. So often when you get this amazing news, oh, economy 45-year low unemployment, economy growing at 9%, record high growth, you're going, okay, those guys are gonna hit the brakes soon. I wanna get out while I can. And the big boys and girls are getting out and everybody copies them and the market's down 300 points. And so what you want to do for homework, I'll send you the email. Look what happens to inflation here in the future. So ILT and R plus pi E. What happened to pi E here? Expected inflation. P0 here, P0 in the future here. What's happened to expected inflation as this market's going? Yes, Nick? Gone down. Pi E falls as economy expected to cool, slow in the future. And what does that do to the long end? As the pi E falls. Amir,
Drops it.
what?
It drops it.
Drops it. And therefore, the long end falls. So, play with this. That's going to be part of your homework. But that's essentially, Amir, Greg, I explained inversion to you. The long end is going down because expected inflation is going down. And often, it means the slowdown is coming. Questions, comments? And so some of you were in finance, and you heard Nick back there, right? That explanation, Nick, that was a very financy explanation you gave. That's absolutely wonderful. We're looking at a macro-esque kind of story. So those are both correct, but we're looking for a macro story, which is a very different, to me, more of an intuitive and a simpler story actually. Thank you. That was the same thing. Question, yeah.
Professor, what are the instruments that are used to boost the loan?
Wow, no, beautiful. Jose, I couldn't have paid you to ask this question. Seriously. Zero. Thank you. I was just thinking, oh my God, I didn't say this and you asked me this question. You can't do a darn thing. This is an endogenous animal. You cannot mess, this is endogenous. So the Fed, you got to know this, the Fed controls overnight rates. The Fed does not really have much control over long-term rates. They're driven by pi E. It's me, Mitchell, and Colleen trying to sell to Helena here. Long-term, it's based on what's happening to our deficit. What's happening to the supply chain problems. Is the economy going to overheat? And then I'm okay, Helena. I'm lending to you at 11.2%. All endogenous. When we come back, I'm going to tell you, we tried to mess with it. And in the subprime, in the COVID crisis, guess what? We tried again to mess with it. It's called Operation Twist. It's anathema. It gives people like me heartburn. So when I'll talk, it's called Operation Twist. I'll tell you about it when we come back. But basically, this pure version, endogenous, you leave it alone. You don't try and manage it because it's telling you what the future is. You can't. Why do you want to change it? This is a freebie looking into the future.
So who develops these curves? Is it the Federal Reserve economists?
So on your Wall Street Journal section, whichever page, I'll let you know. There's a yield curve every day. So in our economy right now, our yield curve looks like this was the yield curve like last year. This is the yield curve now. So all the short middle rates have gone up. The long rates are essentially the same point, but there's a bloated up. So every day you can see the yield curve in the Wall Street Journal. Those are the auctions taking place. There's the 1-year auction, 5-year auction. Those are all endogenous. So Uncle Sam is selling 5-year bonds, and the auction price is that. Let's take till 10 to 7. See you at 10 to 7.